Hey guys, Harv here, and welcome back to the Kerbal space program. This is almost a tutorial, but it's not really. I'm basically going to talk for 20 minutes over the following gameplay. That's all been sped up, because a lot of it was quite boring. Now you may say we've taken a step back, because in the previous episode I established a space station, and I put loads of ships together in orbit, and this and that, and we put an engine on the back and stuff. I'm just going to start again. Partly for informative purposes, but partly because I want to go about my Interplanetary Fleet design a little differently. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Interplanetary Fleet that I have in mind is basically a massive, just big kind of space station thing. And I'm going to put together strap loads of landers and different probes and things onto the side, and put just absolutely shit tons of fuel on it, and we're going to send it to a different planet, probably Lathe or or Duna or something like that. But what I was doing originally, my original plan, was to get one of those big engines, because I was thinking that, thrust over efficiency here, because we are pushing such a massive mass. But the thing is, yes, we need a lot of thrust, but I don't think we should sacrifice that much efficiency, because those engines, man, those massive, big lift, yeah, they are not very good at all for efficiency. So what we're going to do instead is going to use multiple LV909 engines, which makes things a lot easier and a bit more simple. Because no longer do we have to swap around the engines, we can just use the engine. So here we are building our main ship. I've called it the Space Station Core Mark 1, because it is the first iteration. It should really be Mark 7 or something if you go on my, my kind of how many ships I've made. Space station cores I've made, but this is actually the model space station, so all the parts, all the modules I attach to this are going to be called Space Station, which is nice. So what we're going to do is we're going to use these big orange tanks quite a lot, partly for aesthetic reasons, but also because they are just they're just a very handy capacity, really. Use some of the massive decouplers as well, which are pretty interesting to use. And obviously, this is my standard kind of lifting system. We have the outside tanks and the inside tank, and the outside ones feeding into the inside ones. And it's all pretty simple, putting on some struts just to make everything a bit more stable and less prone to wobbling. Now, we will actually be doing something today that will reduce how much this thing wobbles. And it's something I seriously recommend you do, but we'll get onto that later. You can see here that the ship is not very big, which is something I quite like. I think there are a lot of ships now with the kind of ethos is to get as much into orbit as possible, because you can dock things together. But this is a delivery system that can get, 2 tanks of big fuel. That's what the big orange ones are equal to. 2 tanks of that into orbit, absolutely fine. Now what I'm doing here, I've swapped out for a little while. I want to find out where the centre of mass is for a standard thing. So I've taken the lightest one, and I'm looking, and the centre of mass is just about there for the fuel tank and the big engine. So obviously I don't have it accurate, but I can roughly kind of discern where the centre of mass is going to be. I want to be a bit above it anyway, so I can go about central, I think. What we're doing here is putting separatrons on the side. Basically what this is going to do is, once we decouple the outside fuel tanks, they are going to push the engines away from us, so that they don't, crash into the middle engine and destroy it and blow it up, because that would be A, unpleasant, and B, detrimental to the success of the mission. So it's not something we really want to put up with. I think we're basically done. I mean, we have our solar panels, we have our, docking clamps and stuff. And I'm actually just going to remove these slightly. That's another thing I want to change, and I'm annoyed that I haven't yet. The radial RCS tanks aren't a particularly good idea, because if you want to keep things level, it's better to go with single. We have to keep things symmetrical so that there's no misbalance of weight. So it's probably better to go with single RCS tanks rather than many radial ones. And there we go, splitting away. You can see the thrusters did their job there, but you probably can't see it, so I'm going to slow down. That's wobbling, and that is wobbling a surprising amount. It's not really surprising, I suppose. There's nothing there to restrain it, to keep it down, to stop it from wobbling. So what should we do? We are going to put something there to restrain it, keep it down, and stop it from wobbling. Those thrusters are in the way, so we'll move them up a little. You kind of want to center your thrusters around the center of mass, but there's some leniency. That leniency mainly comes from the fact that you've got advanced SAS working to keep you pointing in the same direction. So what we're going to do is just take some struts, put one, I say one, you know, 4 above and below the engine. And we're just going to strut them together like that, and it actually does a very good job of keeping things stable. I was quite surprised at how well it does do the job, actually, seeing as you'd kind of expect a strut. You'd expect the strut to, you know, be more wobbly and kind of prone to bending, but it's actually rock solid, which is pretty useful. So here we are, we've split them off, and you can see now there's no wobbling whatsoever. None at all. So we're fine just to continue with our mission. This tank will last us, it'll get us up to the altitude we need, I think, and probably start or make some headway towards circularizing the orbit, but definitely won't get us all the way. Which is why the next ship we're going to fly up to meet this is actually going to be a refueler rather than another stage. There we go, dropping that. Yeah, it got us up to around 90 kilometers or something, so we can carry on there. Just to let you guys know, as a bit of a heads up, my preview window is lagging, which is not useful. I have no idea what you're actually seeing right now, but I'm sure it's interesting. In fact, the art of being a YouTube commentator is simply just to carry on talking, just to babble and rant about things that might be mildly appropriate to what you're seeing on screen right now. Because what I'm seeing is about, I don't know, just to not be entirely accurate, but about 1 frame every 5 seconds. There we go, it's leveled. No, it hasn't. It has not leveled out. What will you be seeing right now? Time to test Harvey's memory. You will likely be seeing me getting into orbit and circularizing it. So we're going to head for an orbit of around 120 kilometers for reasons. I think, unless they've changed it, when you're above 120 kilometers, you can warp a certain amount more than you would be able to if you were lower. So that's one reason to have it there, and also because the lower you have it, the better, kind of. Deploying solar panels, here we go. We have the big, massive solar panels on these, which is quite nice. So there we go, pointing also northward in order to prevent our rotation effect that was annoying us. I was talking about that in the last docking video. So for a refueler, what are we going to do? We're just going to get rid of the docking ports and get rid of those massive solar panels. That's pretty much it. A lot of the ships in this space program in particular are based off of just the same design, which is useful for me because it means I have some flight leniency in some cases. Say if I'm taking up one of the engine ships that we'll be using next time, I don't have to use it as an engine, I could just dock it and refuel using it. That's completely fine. And there we go, blast off. Getting a slightly better frames per second now on the preview. I don't blame it, this footage in particular right now is sped up to 4 times speed. So it's having a trouble handling that, I imagine. There we go, dropping those, spinning a bit. If you do spin a bit wildly when you do drop those and you use thrusters, I imagine it's because the Separatrons are actually pushing against the ship body and causing you to go a bit of an irregular spin. But it's not a problem really. I mean, I did have ones where it span like a bullet, like seriously, extremely fast. That took some controlling. But anyway, here we are. And our engine has just run out, so we separate that and carry on. Similarly, once you separate that stage, you can get some wobble off of the LV909. Which can be a bit annoying, but you know, it's no massive problem. You can see here we actually we have our target set as the ship we're trying to dock with. Now the thing is, it shows you the nodes, and I'm not entirely sure, but I pretty much, yeah, I am sure actually. The nodes are relative to your target, not to Kerbal. What I'd like is a Kerbal node, so you can kind of select Kerbal as a target, maybe. I don't know if that would happen, but yeah, it would be nice to know what your node is relative to the actual equator, rather than the target orbit's equator. Now getting 0 frames per second, which is nice. So we're orbiting, I think. Are we in the cat and mouse section? I think we'll probably be in the cat and mouse section, where we're basically orbiting around and it's chasing us. But Yes, we aren't going to adjust our inclination, which is the point I was trying to make. Because we did a pretty good job of making this orbit. The node difference, the inclination difference between our orbit and the target ships is only around 0.1 degrees. So it's not necessary. We can just burn as we get closer to the ship to adjust for that. And here we are, spinning around Kerbal. Now it's taking a bit of a while for it to get up to us, so I think I've burnt into a slightly higher orbit. The disadvantages of being in a too high a orbit, as that is relative to the target orbit obviously, is that you have less time to react. So when you get close, you can't just instantly burn down and be next to it. So basically the advantages of being in a bigger orbit don't really outweigh the disadvantages of being in a slightly lower orbit. I'm having to wait for a while. But here we are, we're getting closer, he imagines, because he can't see anything on his preview window. I imagine we're getting closer about now. Man, this is quite detrimental. Yeah, there we go. Nope, no, there we don't go. 300 meters or something around. When I watch this back, I will find out how far out I am commentating. God, I hope it's not too much. And we are coming in for our docking, or at least we should be around now. Man, this is hard. This is hard to commentate to. If you think you can't, if you think it's hard for you to commentate to your videos, then just put up with it, man, because this, I'm watching one frame every 10 seconds and trying to commentate over that for a viewer who is watching it at around 30 frames per second. It's difficult. I imagine we're coming in now for the space station. Coming in for our docking procedure, getting closer, using RCS just to get in and do the nitty-gritty of the docking. I probably could have got a bit closer before resorting to RCS to try and save fuel, but it's not too much of a problem. We can open up our docking shield. I imagine we're doing that about now. There we go, open that up, and just burn in gently with our RCS. Very nice. You can see on the navboard the purple or pink marker is actually directly in front of us, which is where we want it for our nose-on-nose docking. Here we go, just gently in, gently in. The docking is a lot less stressful than it was at the start, which is a shame. I've often said that the best parts of the Kerbal Space Program are when you genuinely fear not succeeding. But with docking, I'm not running low on fuel. I've got this under control. I am going to succeed, and I know that for a fact. Coming in very close. Very close. Final adjustments. And we should be close enough just to push straight forwards, and there we go. Docked, and the frames come back slightly. First thing I'm going to do is refuel, because that's what this is. It is a refueling station after all. And there we go. Full fuel. So what comes next? I think we go back to the vehicle assembly building and launch our other engines, because we are using multiple engines for the transfer to the other body. So what do we need to change? Not much. If we go back to the space station core, all we really need to get rid of are those solar panels, because they're a bit useless really. I mean, we could have just the one with the one docking port, or two to keep it symmetrical. I've decided to go for 4 because I was thinking that maybe I'd be able to dock things on the side, but I don't think that's going to be likely, because if you think about it, you've got a big tank of fuel, big heavy engine, and we're going to have 4 of these around one point. What are they connected by? Several struts and things? No, they're connected by one flimsy docking port. You can imagine there's going to be quite a lot of wobble, and if I'm trying to dock other modules to those engines via one flimsy docking port, yeah, it's not going to go well. So here we are, just using the, I mean, we're putting on 4, but we're probably only going to use just the one connection. And we are ascending to our orbit. Beforehand, before I launched the craft and I was warping around to get the space station into the correct position, I'm not using a compass or anything. I don't know specifically. I'm just randomly judging where I think it'll be. Of course, when it comes to the point where I want to do a speed docking, as in fastest to dock, you know. If that's challenge thing is what we're actually going to be doing, I'm probably going to use my maths to work out the actual orbital period of the target ship, and then from that we can calculate how far behind it should be when we launch. Have to do some testing to see how quickly I can get up to altitude, of course. Man, I'm looking forward to collaborating with some other YouTubers. I think there's a live stream going on right now. I don't know for sure, but yeah, I was invited to it and I was like, no, I've got to record for my channel, because, you know, you guys are my priority, and I haven't been uploading many videos in the past week because I've had exams, which is great. Guess what the exams are on? Physics. We don't do space physics in GCSE apparently, which sucks because I would so be showing off. I can just imagine going up there and Mr. Metcalf, my physics teacher, just like, right, today what we're going to do is we're going to use the Kerbal space program, something I'm sure none of you have ever heard of. We're going to try and simulate rocket physics using the Kerbal space program. Man, oh man, I would have a fun time with that. But anyway, back to the video. God, I digress way too much. I think it's entertaining. If you think it's entertaining, leave me... No. I was going to say leave me a comment, and don't forget to subscribe. Why am I talking about this? Back to the video, which I'm still watching about 1 frame every 5 seconds, so I guess it makes sense to digress at some points. Kerbal apoapsis on my screen is 114,000 meters. That's a while off what it actually is, isn't it? Probably. I assume we're warping round to meet it now. I really hope we are, you know, I really do. Warping round, trying to get in close to dock with this ship. What else can I talk about? Ascent. I can talk about Ascent, and I can talk about it without crying in frustration, because we've actually won. I've won! I can't believe it. I've actually managed to get Ascent working. It turns out the secret was to actually create a different YouTube channel in my parents' name. If you're mildly interested in that, then the name of it is officially HOCgaming, and I have one video on there for monetization purposes, simply so I can actually activate an AdSense account, which is what I've done, which is good news for those of you who aren't aware. I'm trying to get my partnership working so I can bring you more consistent content. What it basically means, and those of you who are like, oh no, ads, you're a sellout, if I earn even any money off of this, which I will be, all things considered, hopefully, I can quit my Sunday job, which I have, and that takes about 4.5 hours every Sunday, and I can use that 4.5 hours for recording videos. And in 4.5 hours I can probably get 2 videos, maybe even 3 done, which you should all hopefully appreciate. Docking. Back to the docking. I wonder how well this is going to work, aren't you? Aren't you wondering? Because the entire premise, as I've said, you know, flimsy docking ports and everything, it's probably not going to work all that well. But I guess we shall see in the next episode. I've actually brought on the music and done this in real-time speed, because it is nice. The music is nice. And I've noticed now, I'm looking at my preview, I am actually quite far behind on the footage I'm watching at the moment, so hopefully everything has been okay and entertaining enough. We are getting in close. We are going to dock, and we're going to do it laterally as well, which is something that I haven't done before now. I wasn't entirely sure how to approach it. In the end, more by chance rather than actual planning, we ended up sliding over onto the side, which I think was a method that worked pretty well. So if you want to try doing that for yourself, then feel free. Yes, here we go. Just sliding over, and connection, on my screen at least. And that's it, you know. In the next episode, docking number 4, we're actually going to strap on another one and test out this ship. See how the system works. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, then please do like the video. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you all next time.